Hello, I am Kodili-nye. We are joining Awka now to listen to Governor Soludo as he addressing the Anambra people on the celebration of 2 years in power. Let's just listen. Remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe. I am Kodili-nye. Just listen.
Show you the projects that they go into and how those projects will pay back the money itself. It is not by accident that Anambra has now been adjudged among the top 5 states on fiscal sustainability in Nigeria. This has happened over the last 2 years. So now that we have a handle on it, we'll now move to the next steps. Now I take you through just a few, just to give you some highlights. On security law and order, this has already been pointed out where we are. You knew where we were before we came in, and sustained response. At least most of these 8 local governments have been recovered, and even after fighting all of those, because it's a lucrative criminality. These guys have gone into the bush and they have seen the benefits of kidnapping for ransom. So occasionally you will still have these pockets of stuff ongoing, but we are determined to rid Anambra of criminals and criminalities. The Truth and Justice Commission, we set up the Truth and Justice Commission to get to the remote and immediate causes of insecurity in the Southeast and Anambra, led by Professor Chido Dinkalo. They've just submitted a very seminal report, and I will tell you that is historic. And we're going to even discuss with our brothers in the rest of the Southeast for us to get into the reports, various volumes, because they get to the heart of where we are and what we need to be doing going forward. But it's a long-term journey. We established, of course, restructured our vigilante service. We established the anti-touting, the SASA, which is now the fear of SASA in Onitsha. Is the beginning of wisdom for our touts, and so on and so forth. Digital transformation in the justice sector, solar-powered courts, small claims court, Bureau of Missing Persons, some executive bills that have been passed by our very hard-working, House of Assembly. I must commend at this point the Speaker and members of the State House of Assembly for being so patriotic and committed to the progress of Anambra State. I also want to commend the Chief Judge and the Judiciary for standing up. I understand this is the second, in terms of effectiveness or efficiency of the Judiciary, that ours is second only to Lagos in terms of the number of cases they try and judgments given every month. I want to commend you, Judge, and through you to the members of the Judiciary. We must also not end without thanking the members of the armed forces. The Army, the police, the Navy, the DSS, the Civil Defense, and they also are very able and capable vigilante service. These people put their lives on the line so that we will be able to sleep. They have done quite so much, and I will continue to appreciate you going on. Now, I won't want to get into all of those. On infrastructure, that has been said that about the extraordinary delivery of our infrastructural development. Because when we came, if you asked in the Anambra on a needs assessment, what's your number one need? They will tell you is what? Roads. Number two, roads. Number three, roads. Before they come to the fourth one. And so we declared a state of emergency on roads. We faced a circumstance where complaints everywhere, this road, that road, the other one, and so on and so forth. But you know what? We decided that we're not going to play politics with this. Enough, because government all over lost credibility with the people because we kept lying to the people. We decided to do something different, and that is that why we prioritize this instead of coming to flag off 1,000 roads when you have money to do only 10. And then erosion, fraud comes, and then erosion develops in most of them. Everybody says this road was awarded, this one was awarded, this one. Even if you take the entire budget of the state into one local government, you will not finish doing their roads. But we prioritize very strategic roads that have interstate and intra-local government linkages, that have taken you to those neglected, to the food producing baskets, so that poor farmers can bring their goods to the market, and so on and so forth, and then to regenerate our urban areas. But so far, we've flagged off over 400 kilometers of roads, about 247 asphalted, but at a quality that Anambra has not seen before. And when we talk about sub-cement stabilization with stone base before the thick asphalt, whenever we moved around on roads, I remember one bishop, an Anglican bishop during the synod, was pleading with me publicly, please, I should make sure to give Anambra the Ngige quality of roads. Because tomorrow has to be better than today. We are now intentional about improving on that Ngige's quality of roads and give Anambra better than Ngige quality. But there is something more to it. We are delivering this at the least cost. Completing and asphalting about 247 kilometers of road, ladies and gentlemen, that is record broken. It is not by accident that one of the major newspapers, I think they will be having the ceremony a few weeks to come, we declared us as the 2023 Governor of the Year in terms of infrastructural transformation. At over 240 kilometers of road asphalted in 24 months, that comes to execution capacity of over 10 kilometers every month that will happen in office. I can remember. We're not talking about the flyovers or the bridges and so on and so forth. And anyway, the erosion projects that have been completed all over the place, Ebenato phase 1, coming to phase 2, Nobi, Ezioko, Awka behind the Kweme Square, and so on and so forth, even the federal highways. Our zero pothole program is on course. And from late last year up until now, I understand they've measured it that about 392 kilometers of road has been made motorable again, just by repairing the dead traps on many of these roads, so to speak. It is an initial thing. And thereby, we are set. If you go to where we're having the Anambra Government House Governor's Lodge, you'll come to realize we are determined that as in the Anambra, we're about the only state that I know, I don't know any other, that was created about 33 years ago, where the governor lives in a different town and the capital is in another town. Where you still haven't got a functional government office or governor's office. In the Anambra, within the next few months, we will break that if it's a course. After 33 years, Anambra is about having a befitting government house and governor's lodge here in Awka. We are doing comprehensive modernization of the Kweme Square. You won't recognize it again by the time later part of this year. Reconstruction and upgrade of the Anambra State House of Assembly. Ongoing construction of the abandoned Awka shopping mall. 17 new buildings are going on for the commissioners. Doing the Anambra House in Lagos, renovation of Ministry of Justice, outstations at the Newe, Onisho, Tuacha, and so on. Then we are diversifying Anambra's energy mix. I'm glad, my Lord, you did mention about power. We are prioritizing power. In fact, when I came in, we set up the Anambra Power Committee. Now that the law has been amended to give, it used to be in the exclusive legislative list. Now it's now in the concurrent legislative list. And I can bet you we now have a multi-stakeholder team working day by day for us to crack the power puzzle for Anambra. Because, as you rightly said, we can't go where we want to go without having guaranteed power. But you know what? We have learned something from our brother, Professor Kodili-nye. Professor Kodili-nye, I salute his courage, particularly courage. It takes a very courageous fellow. It took him 20 years, and his company, Geometrics, to deliver the Aba Power project. We have learned from how he did it, and our team is working. No, it will not take that length of time. Anambra will within, I wouldn't begin to tell you, I know how long power, many people have talked about power in the country, promising, within 10 months, to start one power plant and complete it, you probably need at least 3 years. To start one and complete it, you need at least 3 years. Professor Kodili-nye took him 20 to deliver uninterrupted power in Abia. What we can tell you is that it will take Anambra, I won't begin to tell you how many months or how many days and so on, because Anambra will see power when we're ready with it. But beyond this, We have gone on to now convert about 26,199 solar light lamps into solar. We are moving also to solar. About 1,000 new solar street lights, solar in public offices, solar-powered water schemes, and so on. And so we will be diversifying, which won't just be the normal gas-powered electricity, because today in Nigeria, because of the gas issue, you would have noticed all over the country today, power supply has come down all over the country, because essentially part of it is gas-powered generation has been having problems in the country. We extended electricity infrastructure to unserved and underserved areas, including places where we're heading to Nzam. We will get there. By the way, part of those places, jinx that we are breaking, is that for the first time, the only local government in Nigeria that I know that you cannot drive to, the headquarters, the local government headquarters that you can't drive to, happen to be Anambra West. And by next week, we will be ready to drive to Nzam for the first time in history. We're also taking electricity there. We are not yet there, but we are intentional about making sure that it's not only that they are accessible, but we can also get there with electricity. And then the Aguleriotu, namely Impunando, Ezi Agulotu, and then Nuguotu, and so on. 33 kV line has been taken to Umona from Agulo. And we are working on the regulatory policy framework to enable the private sector participation in the area of power. Unfortunately, I think Sir Michael of EEDC will enter an MOU with EEDC. He was supposed to be here. I think the issue about the flight is not there. But we've put all the stakeholders in one room, and I want to believe we'll be making fundamental progress in time to come. Again, there is history in the making. Massive statewide pipe-borne water schemes ongoing. I've talked about that in a moment. Mobeloge will be going on the commissionings. Major urban water in Awka, Utuacha, Newe, Obiziaguata, and Greater Onitsha will soon be fully operational, and then test runs already ongoing in these places. We also have some other ones in that will take up in Agolo, Okozo, Umunze, Obosi, and so on and so forth, and rehabilitating and converting about 75 rural water schemes to get on. Even in the 70s, in Onitsha, Fege, you fetch public water. But I'm sure those in their 20s and 30s don't know what it looks like. But I can bet you that that is being broken. Development and rehabilitated water schemes, where our firefighting capability is being enhanced, emergency response. At least we've gotten down to about 96% emergency response capability, and that is going on. And let me also tell you, we're intentionally embarking on urban regeneration programs. Regeneration of Onitsha, because Onitsha literally died, and our people are moving over across the river in search of greener and more habitable place. But I want to report to you in the Anambra. Somebody said it the day we went to commission Port Harcourt Road, Niger Street, that this man promised us Dubai, Taiwan. He came, Bidogodi, Pocha Gota. Pocha Sia Gota, Miliwe, Babapana River, Niger. He was just describing it in his own understanding, the step by step that we are taking to recover our place. Because by 2 years ago, when it rained, the entire Onitsha South and much of Onitsha got flooded. Water flood will get to people almost getting to drowning point. And in one secondary school, they confessed to us that 2 years earlier, 3 of their students died, were drowned after rain. But now we've opened that up, opened back Wangene, and opened the channel back again for the first time now in over a decade or so. Runoff water, flooding can now get back into the River Niger. And we are now intentionally rebuilding Onitsha. Today, like I said, Ochanja roundabout is no longer a refuse dump. It's now a water fountain. And that is the way we make the message. But while we are regenerating the existing ones, Onitsha is the biggest industrial commercial city in the southeast. Onitsha will be Igbo. There's nobody from southeast and so on that somebody from his kindred doesn't live in Onitsha. Because if Onitsha doesn't work, Anambra cannot work. If Onitsha doesn't work, southeast economy cannot work. This is the largest market in West Africa. And so we are very, very intentional on getting this. Awka is gradually looking like a state capital. Awka is gradually looking like a state capital. Yes, and we are very intentional about it. One of the bridges that are being constructed beyond the Globia or so on is the one that connects the two parts of Awka across the express. That is also ongoing now. And while we are regenerating the existing cities, we are intentional about acquiring land and putting them in land bank, planning them into the cities of the, not just of the 21st century, but of the 22nd century. Anambra's landmass is the smallest after Lagos. If we don't plan today, Anambra will soon get fully built up as a chaotic ghetto. And so, we are planning 3 brand new cities. The designs already being completed. Awka 2.0 from Millennium City, going all the way through Ndukwenu to up to the Mamu Forest thing. You need to see the design. I'm sure now some of us will wish to reincarnate again. No, back I gave it. Onitsha 2.0, the other side of the second Niger Bridge. And then the industrial city that cries part of Agwata, Oboji, Gawa to part of Orumba, North Orumba South, then about over 4,000 hectares of land. Mahindra, the global consulting firm on industrialization and industrial policy, has completed the design and feasibility study for that. That will be the next new axis of prosperity in terms of industrialization. So, our housing infrastructural development on 214 hectares of land in Aguaba and so on and so forth. So these new cities is in the new industrial city. Revised feasibility study for Anambra Automotive Industrial Park. Completion of feasibility for the special agro-processing zone. Feasibility for our pharmaceutical manufacturing zone. And feasibility for the export emporium. These are now set, and we will be exploring alternative funding mix to kick them off for that Anambra of our dream. A groundbreaking for the industrial city will happen in no distant time. In transport master plan. And this transportation master plan includes the one on transportation. Yes, we now have the master plan for Anambra's rail system. That has now been completed, and we're going to come on board about it. We're discussing with possible financiers. We put together the financing, Mana and Magwakono, for the rail to work. If again, something must give. Okunuma. Because there's this woman at Nobi, when I went on a campaign and I was talking about possibility of a flyover at Nobi. The woman kwaka, sim omaka kwao kama yeme tukwana shop. So, what I'm saying to you in the Anambra, the rail is nice. We are looking at all the options. One of the options that will go internally in the hinterland will require massive, over 5,000 buildings will have to give way. But this is the kind of conversation we are going to have as a people. This is the kind of conversation we must have as our people. But let me tell you, the other two parts of this process is that we now have a master plan also for our water transportation system. And yes, the very critical one is for our road infrastructure. The best time to have, best time to have planned our transportation master plan was maybe 50 years ago. Now everywhere is being fully built up. Almost all the federal roads in Anambra need to be dualized if we are thinking about the next generations. If we are thinking 50, 100, 200 years, all the federal roads in Anambra and all the trunk A state roads in Anambra need to be dualized for people to be able to move on. Because let me share with you, by 2070, we estimate that you have about 38 million people here in this tiny piece of land called Anambra. People, it will be impossible for anybody to move around. Impossible. And this administration is determined. Yes, there is a saying that politicians worry about the next election, but statesmen worry about next generations. We are very intentional worrying about what happens the next 50 years, the next 100 years, the next 200 years. That's how other countries were built. That's how Dubai was built. That's how Taiwan was built. That's how America was built. They thought 1,000 years to come, how will it look like? And you start planning today. It's not when you get there, then you start talking. Today, you find people trading on the street and so on and so forth. We need a master plan, and we have now developed the master plan for rail, for land transportation, and for water transportation. It's now changing gear to execution. And then, yes, Onitsha Port is now been recognized as a port of destination and a port of origin. We are working with the concessionaire, and Anambra will regain its pride of place as the hub for logistics and for commerce. Petrol-powered vehicles to CNG and so on, upskilling in the Anambra in transport hardware and maintenance, innovations towards efficient traffic management. You can see that all over the state. ATMA, it's not comfortable for a lot of people, but we must do that. People running one way and so on and so forth, they don't want this to happen. We must have a state of law and order. And that is the only way, again, people can move around within the sustained little thing that we have. We are interventions and modernizing our markets. Yes, my Lord, you mentioned coconut and palm revolution. Our target here is simple. Our target, we have already planted about 1,140,000. We've distributed the seedlings to about 130,000 households. Our target is to be distributing a minimum of 1 million seedlings every year. We are now started the procurement for this year's own. Another 1 million seedlings will be distributed this year. Our target is to be able to distribute between 5 million to 10 million over a period of time. You can imagine when they are all grown, Anambra will be green. It will help with erosion control. And yes, any family that has about 10, 15 of those seedlings, nurtures them to maturity, a poor household in that will be permanently out of poverty. And we are looking forward to a new industrial ecosystem to process these commodities into whether exports or for local domestic consumption. There is a silent revolution going on in there. They call it the new Michael Opera's regime. And then we're preserving the endangered Igbo cash crops, species such as Awka, Oji, Aquinu, Bitacola, Popo, and so on. We have ordered for hundreds of thousands of this year. We will also be distributing them. We must regenerate and get these things back on track again. We are distributing other endangered species and so on and so forth. Now, Supporting all year-round rice production going on at Ifito Gwari. Training of agricultural extension officers where we trained about 150 that have now trained over 20,000 others. And what the yield that this is growing from about 7 tons to over 30 tons per hectare in some pilot cases. That's how we're going to be promoting agriculture. Anambra will change from just being a departure lounge to being a destination point. And we are intentional about this. Agolo. We had a mighty project we were going to kick off in Agolo, but we were delayed and distracted by issues of land and so on, which has now been recently resolved. But before that got resolved, because ours is an agenda with a deadline, we couldn't stay and wait. We moved that, and then about 12 hectares of land here at the heart of the city. We're developing the Fun City. The Fun City that promises to be the largest 3-in-1 fun and entertainment city in West Africa, where you have the water park, the amusement park, the country club, and so on and so forth, all in one location, the biggest of it in West Africa, and this will be completed this year. The neighborhood park, we are doing that. Cultural renaissance on track. Yes. We talked about education, we are coming to that in a second, but we cannot have smart schools, smart education without having smart teachers. And that is our mantra, is technology everywhere and everything technology. And we're very deliberate about orchestrating what we call the digital tribe in Anambra. And so besides recruiting 5,000 teachers and another 3,000 being under recruitment process ongoing, exclusively through competitive process, we also want to enable them with the cutting edge technology and skills, because you can't give what you don't have. If you are a teacher, you can't give what you don't have. But the quality of school resides in the quality of teachers and the quality of teaching. And so we are prioritizing teachers in schools and the quality of teachers, and with the supervision to ensure quality teaching as well. Anambra will continue to be the leader in this area. You cannot have a Taiwan of Africa without having solid education that is cutting edge. But that we are coming under to. Yes, on innovation and digital economy, the peer review by, I think, the National Innovation and Digital Economy Council, comprising all the states, met, peer review, and they all rated Anambra as the overall best state in digital technology development. We came second runner-up in tech and human capital, best state in digital infrastructure tech development, and first runner-up in e-government implementation. This is the states themselves rating each other. And Anambra came up on that. I don't need to say much more about that. Initiated investment in fiber optic for the last mile connection, solution Wi-Fi initiatives in some public spaces already coming, and citizen engagement. About 17 local governments are now being connected. The digital Anambra State Health Facilities Management Unit is now digitalized, and our GIS, Geographic Information Management System. Soon, it will be able to have digitally enabled process of land administration that people should be able to obtain and change their certificates of occupancy. Our target now is about a week from months in the past, but our target is to be able to get it to a maximum of 72 hours, and that is ongoing as we speak. Anambra Silicon Valley, the digital tribe, level up Anambra, where about 20,000 of our youths have been trained in the basics of ICT techniques, and SID currently, Code Anambra is ongoing, and about 2,000, little over 2,000 people are undergoing that training, free of charge. Costs millions for people to go through that kind of course in some other private enterprises, but we are partnering with some others and providing over 2,000 on the Anambra, our youths, with this. And temporary SID, the Solution Innovation District, is out there up and running. And every day, hundreds of people are going there to learn digital skills. And guess what? We're also prioritizing to build our own, what we promise to be Anambra's own Silicon Valley, where you have the current government house. 13 hectares of land from there down, we're devoting it to become the Innovation District, the Solution Innovation District. And its iconic first building will be doing the groundbreaking next week or two. Investing in our greatest asset, which is our human capital. Human capital is our greatest asset. We've mentioned this about education. We won't overlap that enough. Education, education, education. Our human capital is our greatest asset. And therefore, we are prioritizing health and education. And leveling up with a digital school, like you said, 5,000 teachers recruited, 3,000 being processed, and 2,000 laptops were distributed on Monday, and more to come. And then, this getting the poor to have access to qualitative education is the only way to level up opportunities. The difference between the children of the rich and the children of the poor is opportunity. If you give the children of the poor the same opportunity as the children of the rich, I bet you the children of the poor might have the possibility of leveling up and overtaking the children of the rich. Much of the country, we have been creating dynasties of poverty, where the children, for me growing up, I attended the same primary school. The children of the rich and the poor attended the same primary school taught by the same teacher. Not anymore. Today, the children of the rich attend top-notch private elite schools, and the children of the poor, especially the poorest of the poor, are condemned in poorly resourced public schools. And therefore, where they get little or no learning outcomes, and they end up with nothing, garbage in, garbage out. They end up themselves being poor with little opportunity in life. And their own children end up also being poor. So poverty becomes a dynasty in a particular house. And the only way they escape from poverty is through criminality. We must end these dynasties of poverty, by providing qualitative, accessible education to the poor in particular. Here, I want to appreciate the church, the Catholic, the Anglicans, the Pentecostals, the Salvation Army, for investing in education. Keep up the good job in terms of what we are doing. We'll continue to support to the extent that we can. But we are very deliberate about that the system is as strong as the weakest link. The weakest link in our educational system today is public sector provided education system. So while we encourage and support the public sector education, the mission schools, we also have to be deliberate about government schools, because it is the primary job of government to provide this. And so we are working very hard on this, and with our free education thing, and we are getting teachers to all these schools now. Enrollment has gone up to about almost 19% now in public schools. And as we are upscaling about 60 schools to become smart schools. Our public-private partnership is at work. Private individuals are also investing now in our school and hearkening to our call for them to invest in this. We have won several, we continue to win national and international recognitions. Our people in the Anambra continue to represent the country in national and international quiz and debating competitions and bringing home laurels. For the mission schools, it's important to underscore that that there is a boom. That's what I have been told, the boom by government in terms of our support for mission schools. A few months ago, we doled out about 1.524 billion as grant to return mission schools, and then another 700 million for mission tertiary institutions, bringing it about 2.22 billion to mission schools. But then we must also point out Oh, for the first time in history as well, the schools owned by the Pentecostals received grant from the state. And point out that in the recruitment that we did for primary schools, 80% of the teachers who recruited for primary schools went to mission schools, mission return schools. And we pay for all these teachers plus the old ones that we have. As we speak currently, even before the minimum wage and consequential adjustment, it costs the state about $1 billion a month to pay salaries of teachers that are in the mission schools, so to speak. We broke the jinx about UBEC counterpart funding that has now delivered some billions to ASUBEP, and with which they are now implementing massive upgrading of primary schools. We've launched free antenatal and free delivery services that have just grown up. About 42,076 women have received or are receiving free antenatal here in Anambra. And every month, from an average delivered in public hospitals in the past, we now have thousands of them, and 44% of these women who deliver free of charge, including free cesarean operations in Anambra, are not in the Anambra. Very important to underscore that. And I think I understand now onye dizime ona abadata Anambra ka oje muo nwa free. Kama aisi ụmụ nwanyị onye na-amụkwa anya welu nwayọ ya na-amụ n'ọgazụ. Health access to neglected communities. We are building 5 general hospitals. And guess what? All these 5 general hospitals are in the communities that are large enough but don't have health facilities, or in local governments that never had general hospitals. And all these 5 general hospitals are in the Anambra North Senatorial Zone. The governor comes from the south, the deputy is from central. But we are intentional about extending these services to the people where they are needed the most. Anambra West will get a general hospital. Enugu to Aguilera will get a general hospital. Then you come to Anako in Ayamelum. Then nobody will believe that Onisha South never had a general hospital. And of course, Okoko. We're building 5 brand new general hospitals and refurbishing. We have finished refurbishing 3 of them. We will be commissioning in a few days to come. And in the era of hospitals without medical personnel, we have employed over 1,000 health professionals in our hospitals and so on. Primary health centers, over 326.
Remember to subscribe to this channel. I am Kodili-nye.
Equipment and so on, and introduction of telemedicine that you connect them from a call center. Once you have access to a primary health center, you have access to a doctor through the call centers and so on and so forth. Where, cervical center for screening for women, general hospitals that we're refurbishing, and so on and so forth. Emergency medical services, medical oxygen production plants and endoscopy at Onisha, enhanced disease surveillance, drug quality control. We distributed about 3.8 million mosquito nets a few 2022 when we came in. Healthcare infrastructure, sexually transmitted gender-based violence, and so on and so forth. Yes, 1 youth, 2 skills. No, thank you very much. Thank you. This is a unique program that I think we are mainstreaming, and I think the rest of the country has something to learn from this. This is rooted in the Igbo apprenticeship training and mentorship scheme, where we'll train them in 2 skills, basic trade skill, then entrepreneurship skill, and then we'll empower them with about 2 billion and another 2.5 billion available for concessional loans to them. And then reinventing and mainstreaming of our sports economy all over Anambra now. Then governance and value system. We are getting to the end of it. It's important to underscore this, that what underpins our agenda is this one people, one agenda philosophy in governance. Yes, we're one people, one state, one people, one agenda. We are prioritizing the fact that, yes, Anambra, predominantly, probably 99% Christian state. But then you needed to bring everybody together. I am very happy as I look around here. This is a mass service, but I look out there and I see the bishops. Unfortunately, today coincides with the day that they are ordaining, I think 4 bishops of the Anglican Communion, so all the Anglican bishops are not here. They had to excuse themselves. But it is fair to say that if I get on to the preaching of the papacy on ecumenism, that we are one body with the Bible, and the body of Christ, we are one. And we've tried to preach this all over and reflected it both in the character and the form of our administration. That somebody said to me that interdenominational tension that existed for over 20 years, that in a few months, you've been able to bring it to next to zero, as it were. And to the point that the CCC, the Anglican, Methodist, and so on, wing of CAN, had to give us a very special award as Father of Ecumenism. And the Pentecostal Fellowship agreed. And to give that to a Catholic like me, an Orthodox one at that, says volume about the way that we have tried to unify the state and bring down this tension down so that we can focus on the process of transformation of the state. Competence is the primary consideration. Competence is the primary consideration as we do recruitment and appointment in public service, without regard to state of origin, ethnicity, religion, denomination, or political party. Recently, we just appointed the permanent secretaries, 2 of them. One is from Abia and one is from Osun State. That's who we are. We preach merit at the national level, and in our respective states, we should be able, they say, be the change that you want to see. In the state, in Anambra, we are providing that leadership by living out what we preach should be the model for Nigeria, where you have a merit-based appointment, merit-based recruitment, merit-based. That way, Nigeria cannot move anywhere without having a merit-based system. And this is what we are mainstreaming here. Some of my officers are not from Anambra State. My appointees, my chief press secretary is from Edo. Even the head of the digital thing is not from here. It's from Imo, and so on and so forth. So this is the way we do it here, to mainstream the one people, one agenda. We are prioritizing infrastructural facilities to those who need it the most, not necessarily out of political patronage. And increasingly, a lot of Anambra are embracing our public-private community partnership and investing. And throughout the Christmas and January, I was busy commissioning over 40 kilometers of road done by private individuals and so on and so forth. We are mainstreaming prudence, doing more with less. I've talked about that in the past. Civil servants welfare enhancement thing, even before the removal of subsidy. January last year, we implemented a 10% increase in salaries of all public servants in the state. There is ongoing negotiation of the minimum wage. Will be on course to do its own bit. And of course, to mitigate the shock of the system, I believe that Anambra State is one of the few states that implemented the wage augmentation program last year. We did it for 4 months, and I can bet you are not going to count states on our fingers that did the same. So we did that despite the mega resources that we have. The digitization of budgeting and so on and so forth, I don't need to bore you with all of those, and our procurement revolution, mainstreaming of healthy living. Soludo is here. When I say healthy living, then I am. We're mainstreaming the Made in Anambra, Made in Nigeria strategy. You see me still with my akwete. My akwete at the beginning, my akwete today, my shoe, either Anambra or Aba. Awka, innocent, remains that. Whatever it is, we'll continue to drive it because that is our own. That is our brand. That is the only way to go. If we want to create sustainable wealth in Nigeria, we all must patronize Made in Nigeria. That's the only way to create wealth. Local government system, the way it was when we came, we needed to put it back in order. Put its finances in order. Because pensioners of the place, I think they were not paid pension arrears of about 4 years. We now need to begin to clear up this. There are a lot of things that hold them together. You need to streamline and clean up, then for each of them to stand and become viable entities as well. We are strengthening their capacity to be able to deliver services such as waste management and other primary health care and education as well, and so on and so forth. And we've reconstructed 5 local governments, completed renovations of some of them. I don't need to bore you with all of those. And yes, we are now getting ready by dealing with the foundational issue. Because people say, when are we doing a local government election? I am very much for that, for local government election, but we need to put the foundation for that. And the foundation for that is that we have now, what we had before as the Independent Electoral Commission law of Anambra for purposes of local government was quite neither here nor there. We've now embarked on a comprehensive review of that particular law to bring it in tune with modern practices and even consistent with part of what we have at the national level and so on. And the draft bill is now with the House of Assembly. Once it is passed, we will set up the Anambra State Independent Electoral Commission and put them the resources that will be required to organize local government elections. Leaving no one behind, reaching the unreachable parts. Of course, you saw me go to Olumbanasa and so on and so forth. Community puzzles,